Web User Experience Monitoring. Hello and welcome to Pandora FMS. In today's video, we're going to learn how to monitor a web user experience transaction through Pandora FMS WUX server, acronym for Web User Experience. This feature is only available to enterprise licensed users. Pandora FMS WUX technology allows browsing websites, simulating user actions using the Selenium engine. You may click on the different elements of a website, fill in the forms, check content, texts, etc. It is a perfect choice for monitoring non-Flash-based websites and applications. The WUX system with a hub and 2 nodes is already deployed and operational in Pandora FMS installations through ISO in versions higher than 745 in order to perform quick tests. You may access the Selenium hub in a browser through the IP address of your server or DNS name and port 4444. However, in production environments, we recommend deploying the system on one or more machines apart from the main server, depending on the amount of duration of the transactions to be monitored. In this video, we will call this machine WUX server to differentiate it from the main Pandora FMS server. For Selenium deployment on WUX servers, a container-based stack will be used for fast deployment and easy scaling. This configuration allows quick deployment and with easy scaling. It is our recommendation, but Pandora FMS can connect to any existing Selenium environment. First of all, on the machine that will work as the WUX server, it will be necessary to have Docker and Docker Compose installed, and we recommend using CentOS as the base operating system. To install Docker, we recommend following the official documentation on its page. Once Docker and Docker Compose are installed and the Docker service is started, we will deploy the Selenium stack. You will need to first create the YAML manifest with the necessary settings to activate the containers automatically. You may find the content of this YAML file in our Pandora FMS wiki. Just create a file with your favorite text editor with the extension YAML in the path you want. This content must be what you can find in the documentation. You may change the listening ports of the containers if you wish in this file. With the file created, activate all the containers at once with the command docker-compose-f path to the YAML file up-d. After downloading all the container images, you may see the status of the services with the command docker-compose-f path to the YAML file ps. Once the appropriate checks have been made to verify the grid works properly and the workers have signed up as you define in the configuration file, go to the following URL: http:// IP_selenium_server _4444-grid-console. With this, you will have the Selenium stack built. which consists of a worker to launch sessions in the Google Chrome browser, another to launch the sessions in Firefox, and a hub to automatically manage both workers. Once you have your WUX server operational, indicate in Pandora FMS server configuration file the IP of the WUX server, the port on which the Selenium hub is listening, and enable the WUX server to be able to create web analysis modules. To do this, edit in the configuration file the lines WUX server to 1 and WUX host and WUX port with the IP of the WUX server and the Selenium port respectively. By default, 4444. As always, after making the changes to the configuration file, restart the Pandora_server service for these changes to take effect. With everything ready to launch the WUX checks in our Pandora FMS system, it is time to record our transactions. To do it, use the Selenium IDE extension available for Google Chrome and Firefox browsers. Once inside this extension, create a new project for your recording and enter the URL that will be the one from which you will start recording. After pressing Start Recording, a new browser window will open that will take you directly to the URL that you just entered, and in which you can see a message at the bottom that tells you that Selenium IDE is recording. Now in this window, browse the web that you want to record. After performing actions such as clicks or entering text, the commands will be created automatically in the Selenium IDE window. While you are recording the window, if you click with the right mouse button, you will see a new option called Selenium IDE, in which you may choose several options to automatically create commands such as verifying that the text exists or entering a timeout for an item to appear on the page. It is important to know that Selenium performs the commands one after the other very quickly and without waiting time between them. So using commands such as wait for element present or wait for visible is important to increase the reliability of your transaction. Once you have your recording finished, save the project with the name you want and in .site format. Finally, import the recording to your Pandora FMS system. For that, in the agent where you wish the WUX modules to be created, create a new web analysis module, which is enabled when configuring the WUX server. Indicate the name that the modules that will be created for this transaction will receive. The Pandora FMS server where you have the WUX server address indicated in its configuration, the browser in which you want to launch the transaction, the hub will launch the check in one worker or another depending on the browser selected there, and finally import the .site file that got created through the Selenium IDE. Import a previously created recording more complex than the one we just recorded for video. After clicking on Create, the transaction will start in the relevant worker of the WUX server, and at the end, 3 modules related to this transaction will be created. One to indicate whether the transaction was currently completed, another to indicate the time it took to be completed, and only in case of failure, another where you may see a screenshot of what you see in the browser just at the moment of failure. It is possible to indicate stages in the transaction in order to monitor the recording in a more segmented way. In this case, transaction global status and time modules will be created, and status and time modules for each stage independently. Finally, when the system detects that a WUX module has been created, a new tab will be enabled in the agent's operation menu called WUX Console. If you access this new section, you will see a box where you may select each of the transactions that are being launched in this agent. By selecting one and clicking on Show Transaction, the status of its stages and their times will be shown in graphs in table form. And below you may see a history with a register of the times the transaction has been launched previously. And that was it for today. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can go to Pandora FMS forum. Remember that if you're interested in trying Pandora FMS Enterprise, you may contact us to get a free 30-day trial.